Heyo, over here, as you can see, welcome to my channel, Millionaire Recruiter. But who is this face? You might recognize him, Preston Park. Boop, boop, boop. That is Recruiter Preston. Yep, he also has an amazing recruiting channel. If you have not checked his out, please do so. We'll put that in the comments below to link it up, make it easy for you. Preston, what's up?
What's up, Brianna? How's it going?
All right, before we get rocking and rolling on today's episode, let's take a moment to talk about our sponsors. So whether you're an independent recruiter or part of an agency, Reflick offers you a chance to increase those earnings as a freelance recruiter. With Reflick, you have access to hundreds of open positions you can start on immediately. That means today. No more waiting to be an approved vendor or having to get your own clients. You can start working on roles as soon as you sign up. Recruiters on Reflick earn an average of $10K per placement, so making just one placement can increase your annual income. What are you waiting for? It's time to start earning money right away for your vacation getaway. So a link to register is below. Don't wait, sign up today. For all the listeners out there, Press and I actually officially met just last week. And we were jamming. And by the way, just so you know, that doesn't always happen. You might see a lot of recruiters, you might see a lot of content, you might feel and see their energy, but you don't always like see eye to eye, I feel. But Preston and I did. And I was like, we got to do a video. We got to keep it real. And we're going to put these on both of our channels. So happy to be here. Happy to talk further.
You know, people think that we're full-time YouTubers, and we're actually not. Right. And so over the years, people are like, you know what, you should reach out to the Millionaire Recruiter, Brianna, and talk to her. And it's always been in the back of my mind. And I'm just so happy we're able to just sync up the schedules here and make it happen. But, you know, you and I are both also very, very busy recruiters and excited to kind of talk more about that and how we got into it and what we've been doing. And just excited to kind of get into it with you too.
Yeah. And what's cool is we're both tech recruiters.
We are.
Like, where are all the other recruiters on YouTube that aren't tech recruiters? Like, you know, in my opinion, sorry, other recruiters, I think tech recruiting is a Rolls Royce of recruiting. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's the only recruiting that I've known for a long time in my career. So I guess I'm lucky. I just kind of stumbled upon it, to be honest. I mean, I was looking for a job, and then I just got into tech recruiting, and here I am. But tech is just my baby. I love it. It gave me the life and lifestyle that I have right now, and I'll always be grateful. But you can call, Brianna and I friends, YouTuber colleagues, maybe tech recruiting competitors. But I think you're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, there we
go. Yeah, just stay away from the East Coast, Brianna. Okay,
I have no interest. Actually, funny. Once COVID hit, we were all kind of like stars and like, whoa, we can place everyone everywhere, because I only do San Francisco Bay, right? So we took a leap out and we went and we started placing people. We got Georgia and Florida, New York. I've never really liked. But then I very quickly, it was almost like I came out of my little groundhog hole, and I'm like, no, thank you. I'm going to stay right here. Like, the Bay Area is for me. It's where all the VC money is. It's what I know. And it's so interesting because I consider myself super innovative and I like to move and I like change and all those things, but I just really prefer to recruit in the Bay.
Wait a second, Brianna. I feel like we're talking about, initially we want to talk about recruiting. Now it's going to be political, New York versus California here. Like, what do you have against New York? Okay, we are not Silicon Valley. We're Silicon Alley.
Right.
We still got VC money. They're probably not as much, but you know that the tech scene's bubbling. It's bubbling.
Okay, a lot of fintech, and I feel like a lot of like C# stuff, and it just seemed to move a little bit differently. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Back in the day in New York, candidates were used to paying recruiters. Did that happen for you?
That was before my time.
That was before your time. Okay.
Before my time.
So I just felt like I had to talk candidates into working with me in New York, whereas like San Francisco, we're buddies. Like they don't operate without us. Even in LA. So technically I'm in SoCal. So I'm actually in the LA area, and I do not recruit in the LA because like they just have different like attitudes. And I feel like I just got used to one interesting personality.
Backtrack a sec. You're from California originally, is that correct?
Uh-huh.
You see, I'm from New York, so I'm a New Yorker. I'm used to the vibe. You know, I've thought about many times trying to go into California, go into the Bay Market area, and for a lot of different reasons, I just never got into it. Maybe it's like I just don't get it. It kind of like what you're saying about New York. You know, I get New Yorkers, like New York in my blood, right? And so That is so funny. And like you, I did dabble and kind of expand out of New York because of COVID. But yeah, New York will always be like my home. But I'm curious, how did you get started in recruiting? I know you've been doing this humbly saying like a lot longer than I have. And so would love to kind of hear your story, how you got into it, what inspired you, what keeps you
Yeah.
in the industry today.
So first of all, I got 16 years. How many do you have? Are you that much younger than me?
I mean, I can't. That just blows me away. I can't give you a number now. I'm about half that, to be honest. Almost a decade now.
Okay, cool. Very nice. So I think typical story, stumbled into it, right? Like I was like, I need to make money. I need to get into sales. I want to have my own business. I wanted to open up, I actually went to fashion school. I wanted to open up my own boutique. And my girlfriend who I worked at the bar at was like, hey, I do financial recruiting. Come hit us up. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll see. Put my resume on Monster and I get a call from a tech recruiter. And I was like, all right, let me just go do it. And I'm in there. And I was always just a very ballsy little individual. I just always was money hungry, always just kind of knew like there was just this lifestyle that I wanted and I was going to, go hustle for it. And I just didn't care. Like I never really thought things through. So I did the interview and the guy goes, the boss says, the owner, how much do you want to make next year? And I was like, 300,000. And I'm like 21 years old. And I'm like, I want to make 300,000 next year. He was like, hired. And I was like hired on the spot. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. So I got into it. But when I was into it, people were barely using LinkedIn. There for sure was no LinkedIn recruiter. And there was only job boards. So it was Dice, Career Builder. What was the other one? Monster.
Wow.
And Hot Jobs. Sorry. And so as a newbie, like everyone was getting in at like 6:30 in the morning. I was like, okay, I'm here for that. I'm an early bird. Right. So I go in and they're like, well, there's no job. There's no seat for you. And I was like, shit. So I'm promised all these things. I have no job board. I have no idea what I'm doing. There's no training. Right. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go on LinkedIn. And so I taught myself how to use LinkedIn and I made 3 placements my first month. And all of a sudden it was like, what? Like, who is this? Who is this person? You have no idea what you're doing. So all of a sudden, like now everyone's on LinkedIn and they are like, here, you pick whatever job board you want. Cause it's like, they wanted me off things. It was kind of weird when you think about it. Like, why are we doing that? And then, so there was Dice available because Dice was the one that nobody wanted to use. Well, as we know now, Dice is actually for engineers. So, and they didn't know that. So I'm on now Dice, now making more placements. Got kicked off of Dice again. So it's like, it was just kind of an interesting thing. And I got to tell you, I'm super happy that they pushed me out of my comfort zone immediately. That it was like a sink or some kind of a thing. And so there that was. I lasted there for like a little over a year. As you know, there's kind of shady stuff that happens in recruiting. Maybe not because you've only done it for 8 years, but way back then it was like some really interesting things happened. And I'm like, no, thanks. And I just left and I had no plan. I was just making a statement, as I do. I probably got bored, who knows? And then my stepdad, who also has his own business, same with my dad, he was like, what does your boss do for you that you can't do for yourself? Mm-hmm. And being 23, 24, I was like, nothing. Like I feel like as we see a lot of people who want to build their own agency, it's like, oh, it's so easy, right? And luckily at that time it was a super, super hot market and I just went into it and jammed and that was it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's how it all started, huh?
Yeah.
I have so much respect for people who've been in recruiting before the LinkedIn days. Like I can't even fathom what that's like. And even more respect to people who've been in recruiting before the internet, like old school phone book stuff. It's crazy.
I can't even imagine.
I wouldn't even know where to start.
I know. What's funny is I used to sell gym memberships at 24 Hour Fitness. We would literally get out the yellow pages. I think that's what it's called. Right? Yeah. Get out the yellow pages and we would just randomly dial. Like that's so crazy to think about. Like that's how that all started. And we didn't have like the marketing and the texting and all of that other stuff, How did you get into it?
So similar story to you, but actually one thought that I had is I'm actually not surprised that they hired you because like I'm learning a couple, new things about you, your background, you have previous sales experience, which is obviously huge. You're confident, you're ambitious, 300K, like, and then just being okay, being uncomfortable. And I think like there's a lot of other qualities that you want in a recruiter joining your team, but these, in my opinion, are really, really important that I would even look for in a person, if I were to hire on my team, or like if you were to ask me what are some qualities that would make a really successful recruiter, I would probably say a lot of these similar, there'd probably be a lot of overlapping things to what I just learned about you. So like, it's no surprise to me that you are where you are right now, the success that you've had. And I just wanted to share that with you. I mean, that's super cool. Was your agency your first entrepreneurial activity, or have you done any entrepreneurial things before that?
Nope, that was it. That's
awesome.
That was the one and only. And I learned, I mean, you learn as you go, you know, and I think that that's what's really cool. So like the last like year and a half, I've been teaching people how to start their own agency. So I developed this program, and honestly, like I would say halfway through, like, let's just say like 6 months goes by, and I realize I feel like I'm doing people a disservice. Because I'm giving them everything, like everything they need to know from start to finish, all of my mistakes wrapped into this perfect little bow. And I'm like, that didn't serve me. That's not how I learned. I learned by failing on a regular basis and picking yourself back up and going through the hard stuff. And so I'm almost wondering if like the programs sometimes are like not great, you know, like the A to Z stuff. You know, so it's kind of an interesting thing. So now I go like, look, I need you to do the course first. I need you to learn the fundamentals, and then we're just going to fail on a regular basis. So get used to it. And I think that that's probably like the best thing, because everybody wants these tools. And I know we're gonna talk about it a little bit on our next episode, but real quick, like everyone like, hey, give me the sequencing tool, give me all these tools. I want to pay for this. But it's like, that's not how you learn. You learn by doing it manually, you know? And so I don't know, it's for another episode, but I feel strong.
No, I strongly agree with that. Like, how did you learn how to swim or ride a bicycle? You didn't go to a bicycle guru and take an online course, right? And go through 3 hours and like, this is how you ride a bicycle, this is how you swim. Like some kids, their dad would just literally throw them in the pool and be like, you know, swim, don't drown. But like you learn by doing. Like that's the best way to learn. So I completely vibe with that. But about me, so it's funny that you mentioned that you had exposure to fashion. So like I didn't study in fashion, but my first startup was actually in fashion.
Oh, you had a startup before?
Unintentionally. So like with me, you can't really see it. And I don't think we've never hung out like in person, but I'm not the tallest guy. I'm like 5'7", maybe 5'8" on a good day, 5'6" on a bad day. I'm like in between there. It was always really tough for me to buy clothes that fit me in the States, right? Like I would go for like the extra small, it's too small, extra small, it's too big. Or I go for a small, it's way too big, small, way too small. And that just drove me crazy. So then I actually had the opportunity to go to college and lived in the UK for 7 years. And I'm like, wow, all of a sudden, like Europe, it fits me better. And then I went to Asia clothes fits me better. And so I just decided to like start making my own clothes. I started with formal wear, suits and stuff. I became certified tailor in New York City, like crazy, previous life. But then I started making clothes for myself. It snowballed to making clothes for my family, friends. And then, you know, we snowballed. And it was a good experience. I was obviously a lot younger, didn't know what the heck I was doing, didn't have, you know, the luck like you starting your first thing and then, you know, growing into to an exit. I actually ran this with one of my good family friends, and too young, not enough experience, crash and burn, but it was fun. It was fun.
Wow. That's a cool story.
Yeah. And so I can't remember the last time I actually wore a suit. I'm all about working from home and, you know, business casual and comfort. But I respect good tailored clothing, you know? I really do.
Yeah.
Even to this day.
Do you make clothes now? Like I'm thinking like costumes, like I'm big into costumes and stuff. Like you make costumes?
Brianna's like ready to like send me an invoice and her order. I got you.
Like, are you on Etsy?
Mine, that's my side business actually, you know, like I'm going to make a fashion YouTube channel. No, I'm just kidding. No, I forgot a lot of it. And I think, I don't even remember, like for men, the crazy thing, there's about like, I don't know, 12 or 16 points of like measurements. And then for women, it's like almost double or triple that, right? Because it's a lot more complicated. And so just had to kind of learn all of that. But it was fun. Honestly, it was fun. And I know this chat is not about fashion at all, but I will, to the audience that is watching and listening, it's all about fit. It doesn't matter the brand. It's all about fit, guys. Come on.
Unintended.
Fun intended. So like after that, right, I realized I really enjoy doing things, interacting with people. So like I really enjoy the business development aspect of it, the sales aspect of it, possibly even marketing and branding too. And so after that, I'm like, wow, I really need a job. And I just started, you know, reaching out to jobs online. And I remember distinctly applying for a sales associate role on LinkedIn. And I submitted, and I think I got a call back a couple hours later that same day. The guy who called me ended up being my direct manager actually, that I later on the team that I ended up joining. But he's like, hey, this is actually a sales role at a recruiting company. It's actually a sales recruiting role. And I didn't know what
You're like,
recruiters or
what is
recruiting
that?
was. I'm like, what is that? So I went through the process, went into the office. I'm like, oh, really cool office. This is legit. And then they told me this is a recruiting role in tech. I'm like, I like tech. I like startups. I like sales. And I'm like, let's do it. By that time, though, I realized I was a little bit older than most people, right? They only hire fresh college grads usually. And by that time, I was like 24,
Isn't that
25,
funny?
26.
Same thing. My agency too. Fresh. They want fresh. I can see that though, because you don't have to unteach them something.
Exactly. So I think like I was able to sell them enough on who I am and my abilities, and they kind of saw enough opportunity in me to kind of give me a chance. And I think for a lot of people, it would bother them to join an office with peers that are much younger than them. But for me, I'm like, you know what? I need a job. I need to get myself on a straight and narrow and find a good career. So I'll just put my head down and just try to make it happen and learn and do my best every single day. And so kind of like you, I stayed there for only about a year, but I went from like out of 300 recruiters, I went from the bottom to the top.
300 recruiters? So it was a big agency.
They're much bigger now.
Oh, wow.
They're much bigger now. Yeah. So, and then I'm like, you know what? Like I've done probably about 23, 24 placements in about a year on my own desk. And I'm like, other than making more money, like I don't really think I can learn more. And I think that was more of like an ego thing. I didn't really think I was going to be in recruiting for the rest of my life. I'm like, this was a good experience. I'm like, let me try the in-person route, right? Like a lot of agency recruiters do. I joined an early stage startup, did not do my due diligence. It ran out of money in 6 months. I'm like, oh man, now I need to find another job. And then I decided to kind of start my own. And here I am. So
crazy. So agency to internal.
Mm-hmm.
To starting your own.
To starting my own.
I love that. And I think that that's kind of what's going on. Like whenever you get laid off, it sucks, right? Because it's not of your own issues. Like you didn't get fired because you didn't do your job. The company closed. And I see a lot of recruiters now like trying to make their own paths because we're tired of getting tossed out the side so easy, so fast, all those things. Is that why you started your own agency, or did you already have like that itch from your fashion startup?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My dad was entrepreneurial, kind of like yours. So
Yeah.
I grew up watching him and his lifestyle, what it could be like if you ran a successful business. And so like that was ingrained with me, like just my whole life. My first startup gave me that itch for sure to like, I want to do my own thing. And, being in New York City, everyone wants to be a founder in New York. Same thing with San Francisco. And I'm like, you know what? This recruiting thing's great, but I want to like start my own thing eventually. I don't know what it's going to be, but like, that's in my cards. And I retrospectively, like if you're listening to this and you're at an agency job, you're thinking about going to recruiting, getting a job, agency is fantastic. Like you'll learn so much from it. I learned so much from it. I honed and developed my sales skills. Yeah, you learn everything, but I just wish I stayed a little bit longer. So like, I can learn how to like effectively lead or manage or scale teams or like just have a little more experience. 1 year is great, but it's not that much experience. So I wish like I didn't I wasn't too premature to be like, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? But everything happened for a reason. So like when I reached that crossroads in my life, it was my dad, it was the previous startup experience. And I'm like, you know what? Like I could always get another job, but I had surprisingly good experience at my agency job. I think I can bet against myself and try one more time. And I'm like, I know the systems. I know how to find clients. I know how to find cans. I know how to put it together. Like I got this. And then I'm already like accustomed to failing. I developed that thick rhino skin from previous sales experience, previous startup experience. I'm like, you know what? I know what to expect. I know what's coming. So like, I'm not going to be like scared or like catatonic or just paralyzed. I could do this. So I told myself, give it my all for at least the next 12 months.
That's what I was going to ask. How long were you going to give yourself? Okay.
I think people who come in to self-employment and give themselves like a 30, 45 day timeline, I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's not just recruiting. You're not going to find any success in any business. You're just going to end up hopping. You're not going to, and it's just going to fizzle, right? You have to give yourself minimum, I think, in my honest opinion, 12 months. Like 6 months, maybe 12 months, the longer you can go, then even though you feel like you're not getting results, you're actually getting better and smarter and learning, right? And you can't see it because you're so like detached from it, more high level. But like once you go really, really deep, you're like, oh my God, even though I'm not making money yet, I am getting better with messaging to clients or candidates. And like people just pull the plug too early. And it just honestly sometimes breaks my heart. And then they're like, this doesn't work. Your coach doesn't work. And like, recruiting's not meant to be. I'm like, you're almost there, but you just gave up too soon. So the first year was intense, Brianna. Like I worked 7 days a week, like average 10 hours a day, like no sugarcoating it. I'm like, I have to make this work. And after like the first placement or the first couple placements, like you get a little bit of breathing room. But I always, took every day as a new day, every month as a new month, and just gave it my all. And I think it was that consistency, it was that mindset that allowed me to still be here. And I never thought I'd be in recruiting this long, but here I am. The joke's on me.
Here you are, and happily, and also have like a badass channel that is really starting to pick up. So for all you listeners out there, we are going to do another video, and we're going to talk about really how hard this business is. But in general, being an entrepreneur, it's not for everyone. And we're only doing this next video, which you should check out. We'll link in, of course. We're doing this because of all of the programs out there that promise you the absolute world in 30 days or less. We just want to be super real because both of us, again, have really successful channels. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been in the grind. You just heard Preston. He was like, this is every day, all day long. We just want to be real with you because we appreciate you coming to our channel. We appreciate you listen, and we want to let you know, like we do this because we care. So we're going to do that other video. But before we get there, I want to know though, so recruiting 8 years, when did you like, I got to go on YouTube. I got to put this out there.
Again, respect to you, Brianna. You beat me to the punch as well. I remember when I started, and to answer your question, it was about 3 years ago now.
Yeah. Okay.
So 3 years ago, I know that you've been doing it much longer. And I remember, I think, seeing your videos when I kind of decided to start. So I've always been into cameras my whole life. Right. So so in high school, like I loved cameras, I loved video, and I had to kind of put that down to focus on work. And when I first started my agency, like many do, I just started as a solo recruiter, not really having clear intentions to scale or hire a team quickly. It's just like, it's a great lifestyle. Like, hey, you can do a handful of deals per year. Life is great. And that's all I wanted for the first couple years.
Yeah.
But then, as you know, like, working for yourself, whether you have a team or you're by yourself or freelancing, it can get very lonely very quickly, right? And if you have a partner or a significant other in your life, sure, they can relate to a certain extent, but they're not in the trenches with you, right? There's always going to be that gap. And so I'm like, you know what? Like I'm so pro media. I love cameras. I love video. I also see like a lot of people in similar industries, like real estate agents making YouTube channels. I'm like, wait, we kind of do the same thing. They're middlemen. I'm middleman. They're having fun on social. I'm like, maybe this could be a good creative outlet for me. And so that's why I started. No plan in the beginning. It was just
for you.
Just for me.
I love it.
Just for me, sharing my journey. And if you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. Don't watch, Yeah. And I did not expect it to become what it is today. I think it was honestly because I enjoyed it, but also consistency, which is like another theme that you're just going to always hear from me. Like I just kept at it. I treated it like a job from the beginning. And I'm like, you know what? Kind of like my first job in recruiting, I'm going to do the same thing on YouTube. Just whatever, how many videos per week, just stay to it and don't stop.
Mm-hmm. So what is your cadence?
So it changed a lot over the years. Okay. In the beginning, it was pretty hardcore, like 3 videos a week. And I did that for good, probably I did that for first like 2 years. And then last year when TikTok came out, YouTube Shorts came out, I tried to do 3 videos per week and 2 or 3 shorts on top of that. So like my long forms would be like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And then all the days that didn't have a video, I tried to plug them with shorts. And I kind of kept that going for about 6-7 months. I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot.
And you're recruiting and having a full desk and running an agency. That is impressive.
Yeah. I thought being a recruiter was busy. And then when I started social, I'm like, holy cow. But you know what's crazy is like you quickly realize like how resilient you are. And even though you might think you're at capacity, you're actually not. You can take on a lot more, especially if you continue working smart. You end up outsourcing, delegating. Like it's amazing like what your brain or your body's capable of. Like, you guys might think like if you want it. And if you can make it happen, like you can always give that extra 10, 20, 30, 40%. And that's what I learned. And so now I'm not as crazy. Now I'm probably like averaging 1 or 2 a week. Yeah. And like, what I love about your channel and giving you a shout out right now, Brianna, is that you just came off very authentic and transparent. And I think when I started YouTube, I told myself there are way too many people out there and way too many channels out there. They're just inauthentic, right? They're just only kind of giving you the highs, the winning reels of life and stuff like that. You don't really see the other side. And I told myself, if I'm gonna, start a channel to make authenticity and transparency like really big pillars of anything that I do. And so like whether it's business or work or YouTube and social, like I will not compromise on that. And I think that's what helped, because like people just need more authenticity. It just out there.
That's definitely something that I love also in sales. So like when I'm talking to a client, I'm never going to be like, oh, I'm going to find you the perfect client. I mean, the perfect candidate. The P word is like, I've never comes out of my mouth. I will not find you the perfect candidate. I'm going to find someone that works for you and that will grow with you and that wants to stay with you and, whatever, but there's no such thing. Same with like what we do. Like there's no such thing. There's not all highs. You have to, celebrate your highs so you know your lows. Like that's all like it's just like this crazy roller coaster. And I always say, like, if you can find a recruiter that's consistent, that's your purple squirrel. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no consistency in this business. So I like that you're bringing consistency though to your channel, because you can control that. We can't control all these other things, which is so interesting because I'm kind of like a control freak in certain parts, but obviously not because I chose a job where you have no control, which I freaking love. I love that. What's really important that I want to talk about really quickly is essentially like not comparing. I don't know if you've had this trouble. I kind of came into imposter syndrome after I sold my company, which is a whole other separate conversation. But I also started to see all these people kind of come into the business and industry, like as far as social goes and content goes. And I'm like, this person didn't do this. This person doesn't do that. Like, why am I here and they're there? I mean, and it's so interesting. So for all of like you listeners out there, if you do want to do a YouTube channel, you do want to start your own agency, you are never supposed to compare and never supposed to say like, hey, Brianna did it in this time, Preston did it in this. Like there's no comparisons here, because everyone has their unique value proposition and their own genius. And so I feel like everyone needs to know that you guys each have your own genius. So like maybe a client that Preston's killing it with would not even like to work with me, and like vice versa. And so that's why I love that you brought up transparency, because it's the honesty of it. It's like, hey, can I fill this role or am I going to kill myself to do it? Which doesn't make any sense. And then it kind of sets you like both up for failure. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. You have to be in your own lane and you just kind of have to keep your heads down, right? I mean, it's helpful to kind of take your head out every now and then and kind of see the landscape and see who the players are in your space. But don't let that dictate who you are and what you're going to do, period, right? And even though like professionally, you can say Brianna's a recruiter, Preston's a recruiter, we're so different. I mean, I'm just hoping that you're able to hear differences just in our backstory alone, how we got into the industry, what we're able to do. And so everyone has a unique path, and just embrace it, own it.
Yep.
And there'll always be an audience for you.
100%. I think something that we both agree on is the mindset is what wins. Like that's who wins. Who has the mindset and control and like the power up here is always wins. Naturally, there's, the human powers of being a recruiter and seeing things and watching from the balcony. That's all, but that's stuff that can be taught. Some of the mindset stuff is like, it's what you're in control of. But I love also what you said about pushing yourself, because I used to think I was very efficient. Like, oh, I'm a well-oiled machine. Like I'm closing, 2-3 deals a month, like consistently, like or kind of consistently. Right. And then all of a sudden I had a baby. And I had to leave the agency, which as an entrepreneur, it's like, yes, I did have a business partner at the time. I had him for a few years, 3 or 4 years. So I was lucky to have that business partner then. So I took, I think 2 months off, which is definitely lower than anyone that has a job, right? Like if I had a job, I would easily take 3 months and I'd get paid for it, right? So here I am. I took 2 months off. I was really trying to rush back. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have childcare for my baby on Fridays. Like it was not an option. I tried everywhere and, all those things. So Monday through Thursday, I had childcare. And so I would come in and I had to rock my desk and do just as much as I could in those 4 days without Friday. Keep in mind, I had a team too. And that year was my highest grossing year I had ever had, because I cut it. Like I cut all the BS, right? Cut the BS. Don't have time for that. And I was able to push myself. Like you said, like you can push yourself 10, 20%, even when you think you're at capacity, because there's a reason to. And so that's what's really cool.
Honestly, that's amazing. Like I thought I was busy as a recruiter. And now I think I'm busy being a recruiter and, trying to do content, other stuff. But like, you being a mother on top of that, that's just like, can't even compare. I can't say anything else. I mean, that's amazing. Like that really is like, it just says so much about you and your focus and your just willingness to kind of make things happen regardless of like what's happening in your life, and to hit a huge milestone like that. That's pretty badass.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And that's actually when my training switched, like kind of went into like a different kind of a gear, because you learn so much, So listeners, thank you so much. I feel like this is probably a long episode for all of you. I don't know. Preston, how long are your episodes normally?
Are you kidding? Like this feels like we've been talking
I know,
for 30 seconds for now.
Like 32 minutes. I'm like, we gotta get off.
when Brianna and I see a camera, we get turned on. We can do this all day, 24 hours. Let's go.
Yeah, I got my Pointer Sisters out. All right. Thank you all for listening. Continue to show the love, like and subscribe and comment. I know like that's what for you. Okay. Let me ask you, comments. When you get a comment, how do you feel?
Depends what kind of comment.
Right. I know. You got me.
I try to, block it out. Obviously I love the positive comments, and like the negative ones, they used to like get at me. I don't really care so much now, but like, it's really the ones that like recruiting provides no value, or like, why do recruiters even exist? Or like, right. Like stuff like, and I'm like, it's just, they're not educated about the industry. But I also can empathize too. Like I try my best to understand where the people's coming from. And I think a lot of people get burned by recruiters who are unethical, or they don't follow best practices. So like I can understand it. If I work with 5 recruiters and I had a horrible experience, I could, be like, yeah, I don't ever want to work with a recruiter again. But I think there's also opportunity to kind of turn it around or challenge them and to have more of a conversation. So I love the good ones. I love all of them. It's a learning experience. You get praise or acknowledgement. And I really do appreciate that. I think people who spend even a single minute or 20, 30 seconds watching our content, like I'm truly grateful for that. Like you're taking time out of your day. And so to go beyond that and to type something, right, whether it's negative or positive, like I really appreciate the effort. I really do.
Yeah. Agreed. I will tell you, like, when it comes in my inbox, I'm like, oh, what's this? But there was a time in my career where it was like, you didn't want to push it. Like, is this a good one or a bad one? Let's see. But it's just like, my ex-husband has a restaurant, so he had to turn off Yelp, and his restaurant's extremely successful. But like, those ones, it's like it's your blood, sweat, and tears are poured into something. So when someone doesn't like it, it can definitely feel away, for sure. But regardless, like I'm on your side. Comments, questions, I dig it all. I dig the challenge. I think that's what's really cool. So yeah, we appreciate you as a whole. So
at the end of the day, like I'm not hiding anything, right? And so like I'm trying to be as real and transparent as possible. And so like if someone's coming at me from the left, I really just want to understand where they're coming from, right? And whether it's like a bad experience or a misunderstanding, there's usually a dialogue to happen. And those could, easily you can convert those to a good relationship or friendship, or just, challenge them. And so, yeah, I honestly do appreciate every single person that reached out. And even now though, like I try not to like read the comments too much, right? I just try to, again, do my thing, be consistent, keep my heads down, but
nice.
Still
Love
means
it.
a lot.
Yep. We appreciate you. All right. We'll see you in another episode.
See you in another episode, guys.